And we're live! Welcome everybody to a new video from, well, this time it's Fiji Pocket Guide. So we shouldn't say hello, we should say bula! Bula!
Bula!
So yes, we are the team behind NZ Pocket Guide, but we are also the team behind Fiji Pocket Guide. So we thought we'd do something a little different today and talk about Fiji rather than talking about New Zealand. Because believe it or not, there are 333 islands in Fiji, and I know that may give you guys a panic attack trying to plan a trip to Fiji and trying to see it all, but you may not have to visit every single island to feel like you've seen most of what Fiji has to offer. So that's why we're going to be doing this video in a very casual and fun manner. We are the expert behind Fiji's largest travel guide, Fiji Pocket Guide. We just came back from a nice, cool 2 months in Fiji. Or hot indeed. So we have the latest fresh or hot news for you all the way from the islands of Fiji. So let's get started and talk about the different islands that this beautiful country have to offer. I have way too much energy today, don't I? I do. Okay, so I'm feeling in a playful mood today, so we're gonna start with a little bit of a game. So there's a lot of things that people go visit Fiji for. And, you know, some people may be about laying on the beach and relaxing and sipping on cocktails, and some people may be into epic underwater adventures and everything in between. So I'm going to give you some of the best things to do in Fiji, Laura, and you need to tell me which island group are the best for said activity.
Yeah.
And later on, when I did that video, we'll put some graphics at some point. Perhaps, maybe. Here you go. Exactly. All right, so let's get started. So if I want to see some of the most pristine beaches that Fiji has to offer, where do I go?
You want to go to the Mamanucas or the Yasawa Islands.
If I want to do scuba diving.
If you want to go scuba diving, you should go to either Vanua Levu, Taveuni, or Kandavu.
Snorkeling.
Pretty much the same. Vanua Levu, Taveuni, and Kandavu.
That's true. Okay, so manta ray swimming is the big thing in Fiji.
Yes.
In the right season.
Yes. Between May and October. So, best places to go is the Yasawa Islands, Vanua Levu, and Taveuni, and again, Kandavu.
Yes, and we've seen manta rays in all 3 of those locations,
Yes.
though. That was great. Okay, if I'm going for a bit of a surf.
Best to go to the Mamanucas Islands, Taveuni, or Kandavu.
Fiji was home to the World Surfing Competition or 2 very recently, so that was kind of cool. Okay, kite surfing.
Best to go to the Mamanucas Islands or specifically the northern coast of Viti Levu.
All right, how about hiking?
Best to go to Taveuni or Viti Levu.
Bird watching.
Taveuni or Kandavu.
Okay, so let's say you want to experience the Fijian culture, like hang out in villages and all these kind of things.
Yeah, obviously anywhere in Fiji, but best places would be Yasawa Islands, Viti Levu, and Taveuni.
Okay, so when it comes down to history, Fiji has a fascinating history, and I think like people actually don't understand how fascinating the history of Fiji is. But yeah, which are the islands which are the most interesting for that?
Definitely the Lomaiviti Islands and Viti Levu.
Yeah, and you still will get a really good experience in Viti Levu if you can't make it to the Lomaiviti Islands, which are not necessarily the easiest to access.
No, they're not.
All right, so if you want to kind of like isolate yourself, pure remoteness, where do you head?
You go to the Lau Islands, which is so hard to get to if you want to be super remote, the Lau Islands. But otherwise, Kandavu is pretty untouched, and the Lomaiviti Islands.
Indeed. Okay, so when it comes down to town, cities, life,
urban sort of stuff, Viti Levu, definitely, Vanua Levu, and specifically Denarau Island.
Which technically is Viti Levu, but we'll talk about that a bit later. How about if you're on a budget and you don't want to spend too much?
On a budget, you can go to the Yasawa Islands, some of the backpacker resorts there, Viti Levu, and the Lomaiviti Islands.
How about if you're a bit of a foodie and you want to delight your palate?
You best go to Taveuni for its beautiful organic produce, Kandavu, and Viti Levu.
When you want a bit of an adventure, if you're kind of more of an active traveller, where would you suggest to go?
Yeah, definitely Taveuni, Kandavu, and the Yasawa Islands.
If you're travelling with the little ones, family trip?
Yep, best to stick to the main island, Viti Levu, or go to the Mamanucas Islands.
And in that case, Viti Levu will include Denaro. Like if you're into a fly and flop, you know, with the families, any of the Denaro resort would be
Absolutely.
your tame as experience as you can get. And how about for couples?
Best to go to the beautiful resorts of the Vanua Levu Island as well as the Mamanucas Islands.
Indeed. All right. So if you are now starting to, jot down some notes right here and be like, okay, that's the couple of things I've heard multiple times now. I want to hear more about it. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to be talking about each of the different island groups and tell you a little bit more about them, where they are, what there is to do here, what's the vibe, and much more. Laura is kind of like
whatever comes out of our mouths.
Laura is kind of your AI of Fiji, right? She does know everything. She's our editor-in-chief at Fiji Pocket Guide, so you can trust what come out of that beautiful mouth. Okay, so let's begin with the Mamanucas Islands, because they're probably the one thing that people will have seen, and the thing that is sold to them by the travel agents, because that's probably the one island group that travel agents know the name of when it comes down to Fiji. So Mamanucas Islands, what's the vibe there?
Yeah, so if you want those sort of postcard perfect islands where you get like a nice little resort with surrounded by a beautiful beach, coconut palms, that sort of thing, then the Mamanucas Islands are the closest set of islands to Nandi International Airport, which is the main airport for Fiji. So it's therefore the easiest of those small archipelago islands to get to. They have various resorts, so they have everything from your adults only resorts, luxury resorts, family friendly resorts, and even some budget resorts as well. So you basically, it's sort of well set up for tourists. It's very easy to take ferries to get there and back, or even take a helicopter if you're looking for something more luxurious. So the Mamanucas Islands is just basically, it's simple island holiday.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. As a side note, if you are looking to research a little bit more all of those islands, you can head to Fiji Pocket Guide, and on there you'll be able to find all your informations and much more about what we talk about. So it's pretty simple. You head to fijipocketguide.com, it's all free, and then on destination right here you'll be able to find all the different island groups that we're talking about. And so this one will be Mamanucas, and then we have your full guides right here ready for you. All right, with that out of the way, if the Mamanucas are not for you, or are just like the beginning of your taster, you can go a little bit more north and head to the Yasawas, which are extremely popular for adventurers.
Yeah, so the Yasawa Islands are another chain of islands, so you still get that sort of, postcard perfect islands. It takes a little bit longer to get to by ferry, so anywhere between, say, 45 minutes to 2 hours to get to some of the island resorts up there. And again, you can go to some of the more limited luxury resorts. There's not as many luxury resorts compared to the Mamanucas Islands, but you can still get there by helicopter at some places. But the landscape is a lot more dramatic in the Yasawa Islands. You have these rugged volcanic peaks, and also some of the islands are much bigger than the Mamanucas Islands, so you are often sharing islands with authentic Fijian villages, so you get much more of that cultural aspect. You can often visit villages, you can even stay in homestays in some of the Yasawa Islands as well. There's even cruises, so if you want to experience sort of island hopping on a multi-day cruise, then there's definitely an option for that as well. There's just basically, it's a bigger scope for things to do compared to the Mamanucas Islands. Good for scuba diving, snorkeling in the beautiful blue lagoon, getting that dose of Fijian culture, visiting the Sawa Ilau caves, which is a beautiful natural attraction of the Yasawa Islands. So yeah, more of that sort of actually doing more things on your holiday rather than just sort of relaxing at a luxury resort. That's more what the Yasawa Islands has to offer.
More doing, less flopping.
Yes.
All right, so speaking of flopping, let's talk about Denaro Island, which is basically part of Viti Levu.
Yes, it is. So Denaro Island is very much a different island experience in Fiji. It is a man-made island. It's completely man-made. It was developed in like the 1970s from sort of reclaimed mangrove swampland, and basically it was turned into this sort of luxury island where it has like a golf course in the center. It has a shopping center at the Port General Marina. It also has several 5-star luxury resorts from all those international names like Sheraton, Hilton, Sofitel, that sort of thing. So it's really like that. If you like your modern comforts, if you like to be sort of in a very contemporary setting, just basically you love your resort holidays, then that is what Denarau Island is all about. It has various different restaurants and stuff to try, and you also get the sort of option to do day trips from Port Denarau Marina, where most of those sort of island day trips by boat to some of the outer islands go, cruises around the islands, fishing charters, easy access to some of those floating bars like Seventh Heaven and Cloud9, that's sort of famous in the area as well. You have all that within easy access to Port Denarau. So if you're just looking for something easy, more modern comforts, that is what Denarau Island is all about.
Alright, so now let's talk about the main island of Fiji, which is Viti Levu. This is where the town of Nadi is, this is where you land, and it consists in a lot of different regions as well, but give us a quick rundown about what is this gigantic island called Viti Levu.
Yes, Viti Levu is the main island of Fiji. This is where you land, this is where you arrive in Fiji, and yes, as Robin described, it is split into various different sort of tourist destinations to visit because it is quite vast. The sort of closest area around Nadi to visit is the Nadi area itself, which it has a lot of resorts and hotels, but in terms of landscape, it's really more of the urban sort of vibe between Nadi town and access to Denarau Island. Nearby, you will start to get your beach landscapes as you go down to the Coral Coast, which has various resorts lining the coast there. You also will find the capital of Fiji at Suva. So Suva is on the western side of the island, so you can learn more about, get more of a sort of historical vibe over there as well, learning more about the history of the islands. Then as you head north, you go to the Sun Coast, which admittedly is the least visited area of Viti Levu, but is really renowned for some of the best scuba diving that is accessible from the main island, as well as some really awesome inland activities where you can visit various waterfalls, get authentic Fijian village experiences, all that sort of thing. So yeah, more like the inland experiences are what sets Viti Levu apart. And then finally, one region I forgot to mention was the Pacific Harbour.
The adventure capital of Fiji.
Yes, it's the only place in Fiji where, for instance, you can go whitewater rafting, you can do longboat excursions up rivers, that sort of thing, to remote villages.
And you can scuba with the sharks.
And you can scuba dive with sharks as well. So yeah, there's really like some... Basically, this is where you get your experiences in Fiji that you wouldn't necessarily associate with Fiji. So, and again, it's the main island, so you sort of eliminate those costs of over water travel and flying to a new destination.
And if you're planning on going to the Pacific Harbour, 6 we're elaborating, one of our favorite resorts in the entire country is called Mamanucas Resort over there, so check that one out. If you are interested in learning more about Viti Levu, there is different regions there, as Laura was saying: Nadi, the Coral Coast, Pacific Harbour and Benga, Suva and the Sun Coast, and the Coral Coast we already said. But yeah, so if you do want us to do a different videos about those, if I get 20 comments in this video saying please do a video about all different regions of Viti Levu, we'll be happy to oblige. In the meantime, move on. Taveuni, Laura, nature's lover.
A nature's lover?
A nature's lover's dream. Oh, so I misread the prompt. Nature's lover.
Yeah, so Taveuni is...
If you want to make love to nature, head to Taveuni.
It is sort of branded as the garden island of Fiji, and that's because...
That's better than nature's lover. I agree.
And that's because around 80% of the island is the Buma National Heritage Park. So it is like a national park full of lush green jungle, full of waterfalls and really awesome sort of natural attractions to visit. So yeah, if you're really into hiking, bird watching, just seeing some really cool natural features, going on crazy boat trips to waterfalls that fall into the ocean, seeing volcanic landscapes, blowholes, that sort of thing. That's what Taveuni is all about on land, but then
Yeah,
right,
so that's all we did just from the land.
that's just on land. But if you are just going off the western side of Taveuni, then you are adjacent to the Rainbow Reef, which is one of the big names in scuba diving in Fiji. So if you want to see beautiful, soft and hard corals, array of amazing tropical fish, even snorkeling there is really good. We've done both snorkeling and scuba diving.
We jumped in the water above Cabbage Patch, which is one part of the Rainbow Reef, and got disturbed by manta rays. Quite annoying. Pretty awesome.
Yeah,
pretty good place.
Yeah, this is definitely a nature lover's paradise, both above and below the surface.
Indeed. And there's a couple of famous surf breaks around there as well.
There is.
All right, so moving on to Vanua Levu.
Yes, Vanua Levu is the second largest island in Fiji.
It's big.
It sits just north, so there's Viti Levu, sort of on the western side, and then up north you find this other large island called Vanua Levu, and it has two main towns there. In the north it has Lambasa, which is more of its commercial center, and then at the south you have Savu, which is more of its tourist center. So there's a lot of really actually some of the sort of best all-inclusive or luxury resorts in Fiji can be found in that area. There is, of course, also budget resorts as well that you can check out. And what makes Vanua Levu really different is just the scope of things to do there. There are particularly artisans and various different sort of foods, like there's a chocolate factory tour there.
That was delicious.
With Coco Mana. There is a pearl factory tours as well, which is a really unique experience of seeing how black pearl jewelry is made, above the surface, but you also can go on a snorkeling tour to see the pearl farms there as well. There's even soap making as well.
There's a lot of stuff, but there's also some really cool adventure activities with some epic waterfalls. There's even some random hot springs, swim holes that you really have to know where they are. There's no sign whatsoever. So
and there are cooking hot springs in the main town as well.
That's
so
true.
You can go and see locals cooking in the hot springs there. But there's the bathing hot pools in interesting secret locations that you can find on
There's mangrove walks, there's sacred prawns area, there's river float as well, saltwater river float.
The river drift. Yeah. So honestly, the scope of things to do, if you actually want to go on a Fiji holiday where you are doing a lot of different unique things, then that is what Savu and Vanua Levu is all about.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so I like the subtitle of this one, Kandavu, the final frontier. Tell us a bit more about Kandavu.
Yeah, Kandavu is the southernmost island in Fiji. It is a relatively large island, but the interesting thing about Kandavu is that it really doesn't have that many roads there. There's one main town or sort of service hub there, but when it comes to doing resorts, basically to get to all the resorts, it's their main highways is just taking the long boats or fiber boats around the island. There's not that many resorts there. There's, I think, at the time of this video recording, about 5 resorts. And obviously Kandavu is much less visited because I guess it's not really known about too much either. When you go to the resorts there, you'll find that it's usually very boutique, very small, all-inclusive experiences as well because they're so remote.
You can't get out, so
they're so remote that everything's included, which actually makes them sometimes a lot more affordable than staying in other resorts across Fiji. So it's well worth thinking about that.
And speaking of resorts, one of the resorts that really took our heart in Kandavu is the Matava Eco Resort. They're really cool. It's super kind of sustainable. There's you literally sleeping next to the garden where all your food is going to come out of. There's no power in your room, but you have power in the main room, so you're forced to kind of socialize and everything. It's really, really cool. And they're really close to the Great Astrolabe Reef, which Laura, I'm pretty sure, is about to talk about.
Yeah, so it is one of the places to experience some of the best scuba diving in Fiji, just
Yep.
because it's so untouched, it's so remote, and that's the Great Astrolabe Reef is the main name of the area, and this is a huge barrier reef awash in beautiful wildlife. I mean, we could list all the marine life you can see there for hours and hours and hours. It's really incredible. So obviously scuba diving in a very remote place and snorkeling is incredible as well. So you don't necessarily have to scuba dive. And then it's also a place where nature just freely comes to you. I mean, just sort of relaxing in your resort. You'll see loads of different parrots, lots of different wildlife, the barking pigeons as well. That's what they're called, and they do bark. It's kind of weird. So yeah, it's just a place where you effortlessly embrace nature. It's really cool.
Nice. And it's also a great place for kayaking. We've done a really cool mangrove and island kayak, which was really, really fun.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
You can do day tours, and you can even make a multi-day holiday out of it. Island resort hopping via kayak is, a pretty special experience.
All right, so we're now going to quickly be talking about the two last island groups, and we combine them together just because they're so remote and hard to access. It's pretty much only for the yachties, and that's pretty much it, and some couple of day tours in there. Anyway, they are the Lomaiviti Islands and the Laos Islands. So, Laura, do you want to start with the Lomaiviti?
Yeah, I'll start with the Lomaiviti because there is a certain island that is a lot easier to get to, that is really famous for its historical sort of landmarks there. It is an UNESCO World Heritage Site in itself, and that's over Laos Island, home to Levuka, which was the first capital of Fiji. A lot of the original buildings are still there and intact. There's a lot of budget accommodations there. So if you're all looking for like a B&B homestay, it's a very different vibe compared to the rest of Fiji. So yeah, if you're looking for a more educational visit, then Levuka is certainly a really good place to head off to. But a couple of other sort of private island luxury resorts are available in the Lomaiviti Islands as well. So if you're looking for a place, perhaps if you're staying in Suva, which is the capital, and you want somewhere easy to access from Suva, then the Lomaiviti Islands present some really nice luxury island resorts from there.
All right, and let's talk about the Laos Islands group.
Yeah, so the Laos Islands is this really sparse scattering of islands that you'll find in the eastern part of Fiji. It's all these tiny islands around there, and because they're so far away from the main island, there are actually a lot of those islands are closer to Tonga than they are to the main island. You'll find that there's not too much in terms of transport to get over there. There's usually weekly flights to each of the islands, or a twice a month cargo ship that'll go around. So but that's not to say that there's nothing, like no way tourists can get over there and nowhere to stay. There are guest houses and homestays that you can do in the Laos Islands. So it definitely appeals more to the adventurous backpacker that might want to really get an authentic experience of Fiji, see what it's like to visit basically the least touristy place that you can go to in Fiji to get that pure Fiji experience.
Yeah, it felt like a completely different world and like completely not touristic whatsoever. Yeah. Cool. All right, so that's a rundown of all the different island groups of Fiji. So to help you kind of find your vibe a little bit and find the right island for your Fiji holiday. Again, on Fiji Pocket Guide, you'll find so many more information, of course. But now we thought we'd go over some of the questions that we usually receive, either right here on YouTube or sometimes on social medias or even by email. People just asking us our opinions or questions about the different islands of Fiji. So this is a bit of a catch-all, and so I'll quickly ask the question, and Laura, again, the brain of Fiji tourism right here, is going to answer them for you. So Laura, is it better to stay on the main island of Fiji? Should you actually just cut your loss and just stay on the main island?
It depends. So if you if you want to save some money and some time by not having to travel over water to get to the outer islands, it can be a good option there. It might be good for first time travelers to Fiji, just to make it easier logistic wise. And yeah, if you want to do some of those unique inland experiences that we talked about, like whitewater rafting, then then Viti Levu is worth staying at. But if otherwise, if you want more of an adventure across Fiji perhaps, or you want to stay on those beautiful little islets with just a little resort in the middle, that sort of thing, then that's more your experience when you go to the outer islands.
Indeed. Okay, so the question I hate the most receiving, right? It's like choosing your favorite child, right? What is the best part of Fiji to go to?
Yeah.
Again, it's really like, it's a matter of taste.
Yeah, of course. It depends on your preferences. So we've talked about like what the best islands are for certain activities. You know, obviously Mamanucas Islands and Yasawa Islands give you that sort of beach or island escape. If you want to look more for luxury resorts, then probably best to head to the Mamanucas Islands or some of the resorts in Vanua Levu. If you want pure nature, Taveuni or Kandavu, or if you want, you know, easy to access resort holiday, then, you know, Coral Coast or Denarau Island may be a better option.
All right, so speaking of islands, so if I'm landing in Nandi, which everybody is, by the way, you don't need to tell us by email that you're landing in Nandi, we know. Sorry, it's a bit sassy, but every time it's like, well, I'm landing on the city of Nandi. I'm like, yep, everybody does. Cool, so if you're landing in Nandi, what's the easiest island to access?
Easiest island to access would have to be Denarau Island because it's literally connected to...
Technically not an island, though. But yes, that would be that one.
Yeah, so it's connected by causeway to Nandi itself pretty much. So yeah, that's easy to get to. But proper islands, you know, proper ones that are natural islands, then definitely any of the islands in the Mamanucas Islands. There's regular ferries that go back and forth between the islands of the Mamanucas and departing from Port Denarau. So you'll get to Denarau anyway. And yeah, so easiest islands would be places like South Sea Island. You can even go to the Malamala Beach Club for the day, which is an island.
It is an island.
Beachcomber Island, which is available for day trips and to stay overnight. So yeah, there's heaps of islands to choose from in the Mamanucas Islands, and you can check them out on Fiji Pocket Guide.
So another question we get a lot is not on that list, so I'm going to ask you right here. A curveball is, in which island do they shoot Survivor?
They shoot Survivor in several different
We're talking
islands.
about Survivor USA, which is shot in Fiji regularly, but we actually do get that question quite often. I don't know why it's not on the list.
Okay, so the main island the Survivor is shot is Mana Island. And then surrounding Mana Island are lots of other little dotted islands, Moduriki, that sort of thing. Tavua Island, no? Yeah, Tavua Island. We have a whole article on FijiPocketGuide.com.
Check the article.
So basically all those small islands that are surrounding Mana Island, that's where most of the sort of tribe sort of things take place. And then on Mana Island itself is where many of the challenges on Survivor and Tribal Council and all that are filmed. There's also several resorts on Mana Island as well, so you can go.
You can stay
there
in a resort where they shoot Survivor. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that in mind, are the outer islands of Fiji worth visiting?
Absolutely. I would say it's worth sort of extending your visit to Fiji. Like, don't just go for a week. Don't just go for 5 days. Make it like 10 to 14 days or even longer if you can.
Or 2 months.
Oh, 2 months. Definitely, like the outer islands, they all have their different vibes, different charms. So, you know, while you're there, make the most of it. Oops, sorry. Yeah, make the most of it, extend your stay, and you'll see for yourself how different all the islands can be.
That's true. So, well, I can piggyback very easily to the next question. So, how many days, that's a question we get a lot, how many days do I need to explore Fiji?
To actually explore Fiji, I would say minimum amount of time would be 10 days. So 2 weeks is kind of a standard holiday for a lot of people, and you can see a lot in 2 weeks in Fiji. But I mean, if you have time, stay for 3.
All right. And so finally, last question for you. What is the best way to island hop in Fiji? How do I get from, between all the different islands?
Yeah, so definitely between the Mamanucas Islands and the main islands and Yasawa Islands, the catamaran ferry, which is run by South Sea Cruises, called the Yasawa Flyer, is a really easy way to island hop. They actually do have hop on, hop off passes, so that actually is really easy for island hopping in that area. But otherwise, to get to other islands that may be a bit further away from the mainland, then domestic flights run regularly with Fiji Link, which is the domestic branch of Fiji Airways. There's also another airline called Northern Air. So yeah, there's lots of easy access to domestic flights, and flying in those tiny little planes is always a fun experience.
She says fun, but sometimes she screams. All right. So that's everything you need to know about all the different islands in Fiji. Again, if you're planning a trip to Fiji, check out Fiji Pocket Guide. It's up to date. It's written by real humans that do real research on the real ground. It's not an AI nonsense stuff, and it's all available for free at FijiPocketGuide.com.
Although you did say that I was an AI. So.
Yeah, Laura is an AI, but aside from her being an AI, you know, yeah. So it's all available for free at FijiPocketGuide.com. If you find this video useful, hit all the different buttons you're supposed to be hitting to make the algorithm and the AI happy. And if you do want us to do the same video with all the different regions in the main island of Fiji, make sure to comment below, because if you do so, well then at that point we'll know that you want that video.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you have a fantastic week. We see you next week for another video about traveling in, well, maybe Fiji, maybe New Zealand, maybe Cook Islands. We'll see which one we decide to do. Yeah, there you go. Bye-bye.
See you next week.
And it's Sotatale in Fijian.
Sotatale.